Mike Rossi. I don't even know who's winning this match. What are the odds from whatever website you get them from?
So Bet Online, who's been like the only one that's had lines of late, has the champion as the underdog, but he's plus 155, Damian Priest. And Drew McIntyre is the slight favorite at minus 220. So that's right in that wrestling range. I see anything below minus 400 as pretty much a coin flip.
In the world of wrestling, yes. In the NFL, this is kind of a big line, actually. This is like a 3-point swing, 3.5-point swing for McIntyre minus. But that's the home field advantage, right? Is a field goal.
Yeah, like that's about the line that the Celtics have been, like in the first 2 games of the finals. Probably like minus 6.5 or so.
I thought it would be closer. I'm not going to lie. I thought that Drew would kind of be closer to plus money or like minus 110. And Drew, what'd you say Priest was? Priest was plus
155.
That's a lot. That's quite a bit. Like I said, I thought Priest maybe plus 105, 110.
But it's close enough that could get tighter or even completely flip. It's tough, man, because there's so many things to think about here. Like Priest has been really not set up for anything long term, except for what might end up being the inevitable Finn turn. Going back to Raw this week, he got thrown into the match with Drew, and Finn kind of looked at him like whatever. Priest has been
a hotel to get to.
Right. Priest has been the one that's kind of been like looking down at Dom this whole time, and the rest of them have kind of not been. It kind of feels like we have a Judgment Day split coming, maybe closer to when Rhea comes back. But then there's the McIntyre of it when he's got a feud with Punk pending, which you got to think Punk's close, or by SummerSlam he will be.
February, March, April, May.
Right. Then you got
5 months.
Gunther, who's sitting there ready for the title match at SummerSlam. I don't know. I mean, maybe Gunther eventually says, no, I want the title match in Berlin instead. That's something I could see. And that kind of opens up the door a little bit. There's Money in the Bank that's in the mix too. Maybe McIntyre wins and Punk causes them to get screwed over on a quick cash in again. There's a lot of ways they can go with this, and I'll tell you what, I'm excited because I have no fucking clue which way they're going.
Yeah, it's good shit. The Raw roster is kind of the main event scene's oyster in a way, for sure. But let's talk to Judgment Day real quick. So it's kind of like Priest and Rhea have been the de facto leaders, so to speak, right? And it's just like they kind of have each other's back. They kind of have each other's best interest. And then there's Finn. Finn is just like, when does he get so disgruntled that he kind of unionizes the other troops? When he rallies the troops, and what does Finn got going on with Liv? Is that just like a red herring? Because he was quick on the trigger when when Carlito was like, "That's cool," to Dom getting the key to the hotel, and
Great
Finn
moment.
was instantly like, "That's not cool." And of course, JD is Finn's boy from back in the day, and they always have Finn is the one that brought JD in. So it's like, does Dom, Finn, JD, Carlito have something cooking outside of the two-headed monster of a leadership that have the titles or had the titles in Rhea's aspect? So I don't know. It's interesting spot for the Judgment Day. I just feel whatever the Judgment Day is, I feel Damian Priest by the end of the summer, the latest is on the babyface side of things.
I kind of feel like Carlito ends up with Priest. They kind of have like that, like Puerto Rican connection going. And I always feel like Carlito was pigeonholed into this, but that could be when maybe Liv ends up with Finn and JD. And, well, actually, no, because then your odds are still off because you still got Tom there, right? I don't know. It's going to be interesting where they go with the Rhea thing. Like, you got to think with the Liv Dom stuff, we're not too far from Rhea being back to TV at least. Even if she's not cleared to wrestle. Yeah, so you got to see what happens with that. I mean, Liv's not on this show, but you got to assume she'll have something going on at Money in the Bank, which is only, like 3 weeks later. So
yeah, these pay-per-views are back-to-back 3-week spans, so it's a little.
Yeah,
I don't mind it
actually.
Tough. It's summertime. I don't mind.
And this is a match that, like, I just can't. There's two things I can't get out of my mind. I can't imagine Drew losing in Scotland.
Nope.
Right.
Again,
Priest would just be so lukewarm there. The crowd would hate it. I also can't see Punk costing him in Scotland because that would almost heal Punk to the crowd, which
that's what
that
I see though.
yeah, I mean that's
That's
probably the most logical one. But then at the same time, like I can't see Priest versus Gunther at a SummerSlam either.
I can see
So
it. I can see
it's
it. It's
just weird.
SummerSlam.
All of it is strange. Like it's like none of it's bad. But Gunther's also been like kind of out of the mix too. Just knowing he's sitting on that title shot and Money in the Bank, man, I couldn't by most times, most years, a month or two out, you have a pretty good idea who's the favorite for the Money in the Bank is. I couldn't name you 3 guys I can promise are even going to be in it this year.
Yeah, well, you got Jay who kind of said he was going to win it. Justin had a decent idea with Chad Gable winning it on yesterday's preview. I feel that Gable could win and Sammy could win it because that just feels like Triple H loves to move those pieces. If you think of Gunther lost the Intercontinental Champion and then instantly was King of the Ring, which is going to lead him to the world title, hopefully. I just don't see, but speaking of the world title, I just don't see such a ping pong effect where it goes to Priest, to Drew, to Gunther. I just don't see that. You know what I mean? But then again, it's like you said, it would be hard to see Priest, Drew losing again in his home country. But then again, Punk of it all is the bigger feud instead of the title. So that's just what I see. But I could be wrong.
It's just open. Like I really don't know. I mean, looking at the odds, it's not enough to sway me one way or the other either. And that could flip by the time we're done with this pod. So
yeah.
I don't know. I lean towards Priest retaining just because I feel like that's the way to go and keep Drew and Punk away from the title. But at the same time, Drew, we all harped on Drew not winning that match at the last Clash at the Castle. Just hopefully they don't have anybody singing with them after the match.
Maybe Joe Henry. I'd believe in that. That would be pretty cool. But so we've talked about a few guys. I'm going to give you names, and at the end, you tell me who the most interesting for the remainder of the 2024 is. We've brought up CM Punk. We've brought up Damian Priest. We brought up Drew McIntyre. We brought up Gunther. We spit a little on Jey Uso. We talked a little bit about Sammy. We talked about the rest of the Judgment Day, all in this 8-minute span. Who's the most interesting out of those names for the rest of 2024?
I think Jay, for the reason being is you can't deny the crowd reactions he's getting, right? But also, Hikuleo supposedly coming in. You still got Jacob Fatu coming in. How does this all work, right? Like maybe there's a solo involvement with Money in the Bank. He wins it, and then Roman comes back and be like, no, you ain't taking my title. Something like that I could maybe see. But I feel like Jay's the linchpin to the eventual bloodline civil war, right? So to me, I think, eventually maybe Jimmy saves Jay from a beatdown. That's how you get him back on TV. So just the fact of Jay, being the first to say he's going to be in Money in the Bank, for him to get these crazy crowd reactions no matter where he is, he's very important to the next side of the bloodline story. And I really just am excited to see where they go with that because they clearly have a plan. They clearly have more members of the family coming in. So how they transition Jay out of this solo run he's in to get back into that bloodline story, which we expect to happen, is kind of what interests me the most of the names you gave us. Because I feel like Punk is close, but we know what his story coming back is,
Yeah, I just feel like Jay's been there, done that, even though I'm still very interested and I still think his future is very bright. I'm just waiting for that next piece, whatever it is, that Money in the Bank. All right, Mike. So we kind of danced around it. I'm going Priest in Punk screwing Drew. What's your final prediction?
All right. Well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to say Drew because I'm so wishy-washy.
So we cover all bases.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an interesting way to get to Drew and Gunther, and then maybe you hold off Punk until Berlin. I don't know. Maybe that's when Punk comes back, full force. I just feel like he's closer than that. He looks closer than that. I mean, he took the elbow brace off at Mania. That was now 2.5 months ago. So you got to think he's around the corner. I struggle with him being a heel for a day in Scotland. You know, I think that confuses the viewer.
I'm okay with that. That's the home crowd. I think it would be a little bit mixed too. People would be excited to see him, and then it's like, oh fuck, he's fucking our boy Drew McIntyre. I brought this up with Justin too. 10,000 people in an arena. This place is going to be ruckus. This place is going to be wild. It's going to be compact, and it's going to be electric. I can't wait to see what the crowd is on Sunday.
And a little bit later too, a 2 p.m. start for the East Coast. I like that more than noon for sure.
I like it a lot better than 5 a.m. also for sure.
Yes, for sure.
All right, Mike. Well, I'm curious on the next preview who will be world champion when we have that match. I'm sure.
Absolutely.
All right, Mike. See you on the next one, buddy.
All right, later, Bo.